Hey everybody, Christopher here, and this is 12 Rules for Artists. Actually, I have more than 12 rules for artists, but the whole 12 rules thing's been going around, so I thought be inspired by the whole 12 rules thing. So, I have a lot of experience. I've produced plays, I've produced movies, I've directed, I've done special effects, art design, that sort of thing. Been around the block a few times, and I thought I would just give some things that have kind of helped me along the way. Things that, honestly, if I would have known when I was younger, I would probably be a lot further ahead. But once I started applying some of these ideas, philosophies, I did start getting ahead. So I'm very pleased with the results that a lot of these rules have given me. So I figured I would impart them to you. Now, as Oscar Wilde once said, there's nothing more dangerous than advice, and good advice can be absolutely fatal. So, this is advice. Apply it where and how you will. But everybody is different, and results may vary. I don't consider myself a role model, although I have role models, and that's going to be a different rule. There's going to be a rule about role models. But first of all, I want to start with rule number 1, which is, and I wrote it down because I thought this was pretty good, don't be original, be serviceable. Now, I have come across a lot of artists, a lot of filmmakers, a lot of musicians who are all striving to come up with something original. And I will not be that guy that tells you that there's nothing new under the sun, that originality doesn't exist. It does, and it can happen. Mainly, and this will come from another rule that I'm going to talk about in another video, mainly originality comes from the invention of a new medium. And within that new medium comes new ideas. Or originality comes from something that, well, no, I'll get to that. So first of all, here's the problem with originality that I have. And I won't be the first person to say this. As a matter of fact, a lot of the things that I will tell you themselves are not original. They're things that I've picked up and learned from various sources, and I've kind of gathered these things together. But originality usually is not serviceable. It would be original to come out with a car with wheels that were triangles, but it wouldn't be serviceable. Those triangles are not going to take you anywhere. It would be a disaster. And that's what I find with a lot of people trying to come up with original stuff. They think that if they've got an original idea, that it's going to instantly mean greatness. It's a great idea. Therefore, their movie, and I'll talk mainly in the context of movies because that's what I do. But this can apply to anything, not just the creative stuff, but car making, and excuse me if I'm sweating, by the way. It's over 100 degrees in my garage studio at the moment because it's the middle of summer in Texas. But originality, like I said, it's not going to make you great. It still needs to be serviceable. And I find that people, what they do is they try and skip over serviceable, jump over good, and head straight for great. They think that their first outing is going to be great. They even think their second and third outings are going to be great. But, and again, I stole this one from Comics Matter with your boy Zach. Great is the enemy of good. And that means when you are trying so hard to be original, so hard to make something great that's going to blow everybody's mind, you get in the way of what's good. And these days, I don't even see people trying to make things good. They don't even know how to make things serviceable. When you start out as an artist in any way, shape, or form, your goal should be serviceable. Now, this is a mistake that I made, and unfortunately, I was encouraged by a few influential people who gave me bad advice, because when I was young, I was trying to do comic books and I was making bad comic book art, but they came at me and said, like, no, this is really different. It's got a flavor to it. It's original. It's punk rock. It really kind of stands out as something different than everything else. And to their credit, give the devil their due, it was, but it wasn't serviceable. I wasn't ready yet to do the things that a comic book required. Yet I was expected to. So I went out into the world trying to be a comic book artist, and I wasn't creating anatomically serviceable characters. I wasn't able to give them expressions that really helped convey the story. And when I was handed scripts, I didn't have the knowledge to transform those scripts into serviceable comic book pages. As a matter of fact, the people feeding me scripts, they weren't even knowledgeable enough to write serviceable comic book scripts. They thought they were, but they were themselves skipping over a lot of things and then handing it to me, and I didn't know what to do with it. So, of course, me being at the end of the pipeline, I was like, why can't you get this right? That sort of thing. It's because I had not yet learned to create something serviceable. And serviceable is fine, especially when you're starting out. You know, it's like going to the gym. You're not going to instantly go to the gym and pick up those 300-pound weights. You know, you got to start with the 10-pound barbells, you know, and work your way up 15 pounds, 20 pounds, you know, until you get to 35 pounds. And, you know, and by 35 pounds, you're looking pretty good. You can still keep going up. You can still get buffer, or you can choose to stay in that range. Anyway, you get the idea. You have to be serviceable before you can be good. Now, being good comes from being serviceable. When you've been doing it long enough, when you've got your craft to a certain point where you can start to then kind of break away from the things that are just like your, I don't know what you want to call them, boilerplate techniques, you can start experimenting. You can start trying things on your own. Now, if you do well with those, you develop a style. And if that style is still serviceable, you know, still meets the basic criteria, then it starts to add some more flavor. Then you become someone who has more value, and that's when you're good. Oh, my lip is sweating. So anyway, once you're to good, then you can be great, right? You can start working on being great. Well, what is great? How do you define great? Honestly, I think the more you chase great, the less likely you are to accomplish it. Great comes from when you've gotten yourself and your techniques to a point where it's no longer about having to worry about, is this serviceable? You know how to do that. It's automatic. Now you have to start thinking about, what do I want to say? What is original? And what, again, originality, I'll say, like I said, it either comes from the invention of a new medium, or it comes from your own voice. And again, you can't develop your voice until you have your technique. So, where do you get your voice? Well, your voice comes from life experience. You need to be reading. You need to be studying other artists, and you need to be getting out into the world. You need to, and this is from my own personal experience, and people will kind of go like, what does this have to do with anything? But I think it's very important to start a family, one way or another. I know families are not going to be for everyone, and it's not going to be possible for everyone. But if it is, start a family, you know, get a pet. Don't get too many pets. I think that'll be another rule, actually. Originality comes from going, essentially, you imbibe all these experiences, and you start to have thoughts about them, and you start to realize what's important to you in life, what your values are, and values are a real thing, and they're going to be different for everybody to a degree, but for the most part, values, really what that means is, you know, what do you believe in a way that you feel like it's something that is worth fighting for, is worth talking about. Now, I'm not talking about propagandizing. I'm not talking about a cause or anything like that, you know. My personal values are, I'm an optimist. You wouldn't know it because I'm cranky a lot. I argue with people a lot. And that's because, being an optimist, I believe that these are, there's something to be optimistic about. And therefore, when I'm met with pessimism, when I'm met with people who think that things are futile or nihilistic, or people who want to give up, I get abrasive, I get angry, because I actually feel like you only lose if you give up. That's a value of mine. You can run up against a wall as many times as possible, but if you adjust, if you learn from it, you will eventually have success. Failure is only when you quit. That's a value of mine. Another value of mine is just quality. I see a lot of people who are trying to reach originality and or greatness by really kind of pursuing the lowest common denominator. I really feel, and this is part of the rule as well, you're going to get people that are going to go like, well, my movie is a social commentary about, the evils of capitalism, or the, the male gaze, the patriarchy, or, I don't know, something like, and look, if you have strong feelings about those things, fine. But your movie shouldn't be about those, because A, people are sick of it, because it's like every other movie is about that these days, and it's boring. But more than that, it's been done, like I said, because it's been done over and over again, it is just become like an echo chamber. It becomes propaganda. So when I say use your values to try and achieve something more than good, I don't mean make a movie that's like this is a commentary on this or that, because most likely, and this goes for me as well, you don't know enough about that subject to really comment on it. You're still growing. Now, again, this rule is all about growth. It's all about change. It's all about learning new things. If you cannot learn new things, you're going to be stuck at mediocre, not even good, for a long time. So, how do I explain this? Look, if you get stuck in an idea, if you get stuck in if you're 12 years old and say like, my dream is to become, a great artist that paints only these kind of pictures or makes only these kind of movies, and you stick to that idea that you had at 12 years old when you're 20, 30, 40, like the 12-year-old you, and again, I'm stealing this from other people. I'm not the first person to say this. The 12-year-old you has no idea what 20, 30, 40-year-old you is going to be like, what their thoughts and feelings are. If you can't transition from your preconceived ideas to something else as you grow, and you can't do that constantly, then you're going to be stuck. You're not going to be creating anything original or great. You have to constantly be looking at other points of view. You have to constantly be trying to figure out what it is about you that you can take and put into your stories that will be meaningful to other people and helpful to other people. Useful, I should say. Alan Moore, and I disagree with this, Alan Moore said, don't give the audience what they want, give them what they need. I actually disagree with that. I think you should kind of be aware what the audience is after, or at least be aware of what you promise to them, and if that attracts them, then deliver on it. But the other thing is, don't give them what they need because you don't know what they need. Only they know what they need, and they don't even know what they need. They need to figure that out. So if you can give them something useful that maybe along the way is something that they can imbibe and might help them on their journey to figure out what they're about, then that's a great accomplishment. But if you want to proselytize to them, anything like that, forget it. Just forget it. You're just going to be, you're going to be coming off as a know-it-all or preachy or something like that. Nobody wants to hear that stuff, and they can see their audiences are smart. They've seen all the metaphors. They know all that stuff. They don't care. I don't care. I'm so sick of it, I don't like, it's like someone's analyzing a movie. It's like the monster represents, the degradation of mankind and the ultimate failure of, like, just shut up. let the monster be the monster. Let the characters respond to it in ways that feel authentic to you, because you can put yourself as an avatar into that story. And different character, look, every character is an avatar of you in some way or another. You need to figure out what that means to you. What aspect of yourself can you create a character with, and then insert it in, and then see what happens to them. That's where the story gets interesting, and that's where audiences will be able to identify with you. And you don't need to tell them that the story is about anything. You just have to know what that situation is, and what that would mean to that aspect of yourself. Would you survive it? So, like I said, these are things that I think as an artist, a filmmaker, an engineer, anything like that, you need to look at life, and you need to look at what you're doing from that perspective. You're not here to tell people what to think or how to live or anything like that, because chances are, no matter how much you think you've got it figured out, no matter how much you think everybody else is an asshole and you've managed to stay sane, there's something about you that has some aspect of life wrong, and you still need to learn. So if you make your art about the journey of your own learning experience, other people will be able to relate to it. And that is how you will possibly become great. This is the other thing. There's no guarantee that any of this will lead to greatness. You just kind of have to accept, like I said, again, like going to the gym. You have to accept when you first arrive that you can't pick up the heavy weights. You got to start small, and you got to take baby steps, and you got to be committed for the long haul. And this is the last thing I'll say about it. Okay, so the long haul, it is a long haul. There's no shortcuts. There's no instant gratification. And people who try and convince you, like, oh no, your art's fine the way it is, or this sort of thing. You got a punk rock style. It doesn't matter if you don't know anatomy, or you don't know how to interpret a comic book script. No, it's punk rock style. It'll all come together. No, it won't. That's stupid. All right, you need to take baby steps, and you need to be committed to the long haul, because the long haul is how you're going to create something of actual value. I see a lot of artists, they do one of two things. This is kind of my joke to myself. They either turn to drugs and alcohol and say, like, well, my drugs and alcohol, they're like part of my creative process, man. No, that's bull. That's an excuse. Or they go and become a singer in a band. Both of those things are trying to accomplish the same thing, and that's some sort of instant gratification, some stimuli in the brain, that sort of thing. You show up, you're a singer to a band, everyone's drinking, everyone's having fun, you finish the song, everyone claps, woohoo, that was awesome, that sort of thing, and then they forget about it because it was for instant gratification. Drugs and alcohol are even worse. Now, I enjoy wine. I'm not saying like be completely clean and sober, that sort of thing. It just, but keep in mind that these are like neurons firing, just like dopamine hits and that sort of thing. They are not going to make you an accomplished artist in any way, shape, or form, serviceable, good, or great. You need to be in it for the long haul. Try and ignore those distractions, and everyone has them. I'm not saying like be a workaholic or anything like that, but look, whatever you create, if you're in it for the long haul, if you say, look, I'm going to commit to this, and I'm going to acknowledge that it may be 10, 20 years before I actually do anything of value. That is going to be tough because it's a long time without any gratification. And it takes faith, man. It takes a lot of faith to believe that eventually you will get there and it's all worth it, and everything you will struggle through will somehow amount to something. And without the guarantee that it actually will. You could go all that time and still not make it. A lot of people, that's exactly what happens. But listen, if you do make it, if you do go in for the long haul, and if you do commit yourself to first being serviceable and then being good, if you do ignore those instant gratification dopamine hits, eventually, whether people ever find out about it or not, you will create something of true value. And that's what it means to not be original, but be serviceable. Because ultimately, all you have to do is take those steps. is take those steps, and keep walking and be single-minded, and you will be amazed. Again, I'm stealing this from other people. These are life lessons I've learned from other people, but I've applied them to my own life, and they really work. You will be amazed at what happens. You will be amazed at what you create. You will be amazed at how much better and easier things will get, at least in certain ways. You know, sometimes things get harder. Like, life doesn't offer any guarantees of getting obviously easier overall, but do it. That is the only way to do it. That's the only way to create something of value. There's no shortcuts to value. There's no shortcuts to being memorable, that sort of thing. You know, some people do it at a very young age. Most of them burn out. You know, they get lucky and they hit on something that everyone likes, and then they can't repeat it. And they spend the rest of their lives trying to, because they're trying to recreate lightning in a bottle. With what they should be doing is going back to square one, going back to trying to figure out what's serviceable. So anyway, that's all I'll say about this. If you have any comments on this, have any thoughts, if you like these ideas, if you think I'm missing something, please let me know in the comments. Be sure to like, share, subscribe. I am uploading not only to YouTube, but BitChute and Dailymotion. And did I say share this? Be sure to share this. I'm trying to get more cross-platforms, more new tech sites. YouTube has got its limits, and so do the other sites. But I think if I get this message on enough of them, this would be good stuff. So anyway, that's the first of my 12 rules for artists. The next rule, well, I got a list of them. I'll figure out which one I want to put on next. Just no particular order. Anyway, thanks for watching. Have a good one, guys.